alaikum. My name is Mira Harara. I'm an air quality analyst and I'll be your MC for today. Our session today is going to be a little bit underground. We're going to dig deep into the world of soil and water resources with our wonderful experts here from the Environment Agency. We have Bayan Athamna, sorry. She's an expert in soil quality in the agency, and we have Dr. Mohammed Dawood, who's an advisor in environment quality. I'm going to just go ahead. I don't want to give any spoilers. So, Dr. Mohammed Dawood, what is the status of water resources in Abu Dhabi currently?
In Abu Dhabi, Emirate, and UAE, we have only 3 taps of water. 3. Reminder this. Unfortunately, we are an arid region. We don't have permanent surface water bodies like rivers, canals, freshwater lakes. We don't have this. And also, we have very scarce rainfall events. Only 2 months a year with very minor rainfall events, with less than 100 millimeter per year. However, our evapotranspiration is more than 2,000. You can imagine. The evapotranspiration is 2,000 and the rainfall is 100. So we have over scarce of water resources. The per capita water resources in our region, in GCC and the UAE as part of it, is less than 100 cubic meter per capita. However, the water poverty level is 1,000. So we are below 100. And we are below even the stressed water lines, which is 500 cubic meter per capita per year. We have 3 taps. We have one which is considered as a nature water resources, which is the groundwater aquifer system. And we have groundwater aquifer system, which is non-renewable aquifer, because we have no recharge to this aquifer system. So whatever we are abstracting, we are deteriorating. It's lost, and it will not be recharged or replaced anymore. And the groundwater is considered as the first source of water for agriculture and the greening in Abu Dhabi and in UAE. We are abstracting about 2.3 billion cubic meter from the groundwater resources, irrigating about 24,000 farms and about 300 afforested areas in Abu Dhabi Emirates. The second source is the desalinated system or the desalinated water. And we are the second globally producer of the desalinated water. We are producing about 2.1 billion cubic meter of desalinated water annually. However, we have 2 challenges facing the desalinated water. The first one is the environmental impact of the desalinated water, because we are using intensive energy, so we have carbon emission and the green gas emission, and we have also discharging brine water back to the environment, mainly to the Gulf bodies. The third one and the last one is the reuse of tertiary treated wastewater. We are producing about half a million cubic meter a day. And we are producing, and unfortunately 40% is utilized and reused, and 60% is still discharged back to the environment. The government started to put a very ambitious plan to implement the infrastructure to use and utilize this treated wastewater. It's expected by the end of 2024 that we will have 0 discharge of treated wastewater back to environment, and we have 100% utilization of this water. Water resources is a very important part from the nature resources, helping us to achieve the greening strategy in the future.
Thank you very much. Honestly, I found it interesting listening to all the statistics behind the water and how scarce our water is. As we all know, or some of us may know, soil is essential when it comes to water resources. So Bayan, moving on to you, what is the importance of soil from a climate change perspective, and why is it important to conduct soil quality monitoring programs for environmental sustainability?
Thank you very much, Mira. Actually, soil play a vital role in the context of climate change for many reasons. Soil serves as a natural reservoir to store as a carbon storage, and actually it might be many people does not know that soil contain or store double the amount of carbon presence in the atmosphere, plant and animals combined, therefore contributing to mitigating the impact of climate change. Therefore, when soil is degraded, massive amount of carbon can be released to the atmosphere, accelerating the impact of climate change. Thus, reducing or let's say preventing land degradation means combating climate change. Now to the second part of the question about the importance of monitoring program. Actually, monitoring program is, in general, is, let's say, the first step into protecting our environment. It helps, it's a very powerful tool that helps us to understand the pressures, the drivers that impacting our environment. And Abu Dhabi Environment Agency understand the importance of conducting these programs, and we started monitoring soil quality in 2018. Currently, we have more than 600 monitoring sites distributed over 3 land uses: agricultural, industrial, residential. And these monitoring sites have been, let's say, chosen based on a specific criteria for each land use and to represent or to assess the potential source of contamination in each land use. And actually, the scientific information that, let's say, as a result of this monitoring program, help us to develop policies, regulations, evidence-based decision. So I believe monitoring program is the first step indeed to protect our environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I agree, monitoring the environment in general is very helpful to identify challenges, to identify limitations, and help us further in implementing activities that could protect it from any harm. So speaking of challenges, Dr. Mohammed Dawood, what are the main challenges facing water resources?
Unfortunately, as I mentioned, we are an arid region, so we have a huge number or a big list of challenges. We are doing our best to overcome these challenges, but the challenges is always linked with the resource itself and also on the demand side management. For instance, as I mentioned, we have 3 resources. Groundwater, we are facing the scarcity, the non-renewable aquifer system, the depletion in the aquifer system, the deterioration of the groundwater quality, the drop in the water table, and unfortunately, because of all these challenges, it makes the aquifer system is not visible, economically visible or technically viable to produce the agricultural production. And it affects the soil salinity, as has been mentioned by Bayan, because I'm irrigating with either brackish water or saline water. All this water accumulates on the surface of the soil and make a very clear white, in some areas, clear white salt crust lens, which need to be removed, to be washed with the freshwater resources. And the groundwater is considered also as a strategic reserve for future generation. It's not only for our present use, but also it is a source for future generation. And we consider it as a strategic reserve also for emergency, because we don't have freshwater bodies. We are protecting the only 2 freshwater bodies in the aquifer system, in Liwa and Ashweb, as a strategic water reserve for emergency and the contingency plans, if we have any challenging facing the supply from the desalination or other source. If we came to the desalination is a man-made freshwater resource. We are actually disseminating and simulating the natural hydrologic system. What is happening in the natural hydrologic system? The sun is hitting the surface of the big water bodies like seas, oceans, and it evaporates the water. I am doing the same, but as an industry. I am using the oil or the crude oil, the gas, natural gas, to evaporate the water from the sea. I take the sea in the boilers, converting to steams, and I am condensing these steams to convert it to freshwater. But I need infrastructure, which is very intensive energy consumption. I need a huge investment. The investment to desalinate 1 cubic meter as a capex. We have 2 systems for desalination: thermal and reverse osmosis or membrane-based technology. Thermal is contributing by about 70%, and reverse osmosis 30%. In the thermal, I need energy, I need infrastructure, which 1 cubic meter capex is in the capacity of the plant needs about between $1,500 to $2,000 per cubic meter of the capacity. If the RO, it is about $900 to $1,200 per capacity. So you can imagine, if I need to build 1 desalination plant with 100,000, I need $100,000 million, which is a huge amount of investment. Meanwhile, I'd have to discharge the brine water back because I fresh the water. There is well still some water considered as a brine water, or we called it brine water, and with very high salinity, and in thermal also with very high temperature. I need to blend it back, to dilute it, and to minimize the thermal content of it, and discharge it back to environment, which will impact the marine ecosystem and the marine environment. Meanwhile, I am burning in energy, so I have emissions, and I have carbon footprint. Our target in the UAE as a government is to minimize our carbon footprint. But because I'm using desalinated, I'm increasing my carbon footprint, unfortunately. So we are looking to a new innovative technology that use less energy and more efficient. The thermal technology efficiency is between 25% to 40% only. So I am burning 100 unit of thermal unit. I get used only from 25% of it. And I'm losing the others, and that's going as emissions. So this is also another big challenge for us to have a new innovative technology to minimize the energy consumption per cubic meter. Nowadays, the thermal technology consumption is between 19 kilowatt hour to 25 kilowatt hour per cubic meter. However, if we started to transfer and to move toward this using membrane technology, I can reduce this to 2.5 to up to 5 kilowatt hour. But why I am not able to shift and to transfer? Because the thermal technology, it is a hybrid system. I am producing both water and energy. If I started to transfer or to transfer to be using more RO, I need more energy. So why the government started to diversify its energy strategy and to have safe nuclear energy, renewable energy system like Shams 1, Shams 2, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Mugamma Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid for solar energy. And we have a lot of energy, renewable energy project to diversify and increase our energy resources so I can shift toward this using membrane technology, which will allow me to minimize the challenge of carbon emissions and energy and environmental impact. If we came to the treated tertiary water, we have one main challenge, which is the infrastructure. I don't have enough infrastructure to transfer from the water from where it's treated to where it's used. But however, the government of Abu Dhabi started this year to investment about 2 billion Emirati dirham to build the main infrastructure, including the main transmission pipeline, distribution, reservoirs, and the other infrastructure to utilize and to reach zero discharge of treated wastewater.
Thank you. And it was interesting to see that there are some gaps for innovative technologies and innovative ideas that could possibly help or mitigate some of the challenges that we are facing in the Emirate. Speaking of innovative technologies, Bayan, this question's for you. So EAD has launched innovative monitoring initiatives utilizing advanced technologies such as hyperspectral imaging and AI. How does this program differ from conventional or traditional soil quality monitoring programs?
Great, thank you, Mira. Actually, traditional monitoring programs relies on presence physically on the site, collecting soil samples, which then need to be sent to the laboratory for analysis. And this process requires considerable time, efforts, manpower, laboratory expenses, transportation. And actually, these constraints make expansion and increasing coverage and even continuity of these programs quite challenging and extremely challenging. While remote sensing, it does not require physical presence at the site. We can use hyperspectral images, either obtained by satellite images or by drones. And these, let's say, the hyperspectral data fed into an AI model to process these data and to predict the environmental values. And in our case, we are predicting heavy metals in the soil. So I believe, and definitely in this way, consequently, it can cover large area and provide more comprehensive information without the need of collecting many soil samples and send them to the laboratory. And actually, this difference allows Abu Dhabi Environment Agency to enhance our monitoring capability, to augment our monitoring program, to expand our scope of work, and when needed, to increase the frequency. And I believe this is it's a very powerful tool. It should be leveraged and implemented not only in soil quality monitoring, but I believe in all other areas.
Just to continue on that, so we've heard about the AI aspect of the monitoring initiatives. So Bayan, can you just tell us what's the role of AI in this project and how does it enable EAD to carry out this project?
Excellent. Actually, the type of data that we are receiving, the hyperspectral data, is a very complex data. And actually, it's comprised of spectral reflectance of many wavelengths, and each spectral reflectance represent a specific soil component. So actually, it is a massive volume of data, cannot interpret it without using AI. And actually, in this project, various AI have been tested to choose the suitable, let's say, model that fit with our spectral data. So, in short, Mira, the AI model processes the spectral data and correlated with physical, or let's say real soil data, in order to translate this spectral information into, let's say, heat maps, we call them, or let's say values or information that can be used to predict level of contaminants in Abu Dhabi soil. Thank you very much.
That was very interesting to see how you were able to fill the gaps or kind of ease the soil monitoring from a more innovative perspective using AI and imaging. Speaking of gaps, back to you, Dr. Mohammed. What are the government's efforts to fill the gaps between supply and demand when it comes to water? I know we've spoken about it a little bit, but perhaps you can dig deeper.
The governments already have a very clear strategy and policy to manage its water resources. And this strategy is actually focusing on 4 pillars. The first one is the regulation. So the government started to have laws, regulation, executive orders, and standards to regulate the groundwater use, the desalinated water use, and even the treated wastewater collection, treatment, and reuse. So we do have enough regulation, and we started to enforce this regulation. As an example of this regulation, we have law number 5 for 2016 and its executive order to regulate the groundwater use, the groundwater well drilling, and allocating the groundwater for each farm based on what we call the crop calculator. Crop calculator is an application developed by Environment Agency Abu Dhabi in cooperation with our stakeholders to allocate the most optimal water needed for each farm based on its area, size, crop patterns, and the crop and the agro calendar. So we do have a clear vision how we can adopt and how we can manage our groundwater resources and how we can allocate the accurate figures for each farm. In terms of desalination, we are monitoring the marine water environment because of the discharge of the brine water. We are working together with our stakeholders to have new innovation technology and also using renewable energy system like solar energy for powering the desalination. Meanwhile, we are also utilizing all the treated wastewater. So in terms of resources, we are doing our best to have more resources. Even we started to explore additional and another alternative water resources, like exploring and making some exploration for the deep aquifer system, which is a shared aquifer between us, Sultanate of Oman, and Saudi Arabia, to see if the potentiality of this deep aquifer system is suitable for utilizing and reused in the future. Meanwhile, we have new innovative technology in desalination, as I mentioned. We started with Masdar and with Mubadala, one of the leading project to explore new innovative technology using renewable energy. And we tested 5 pilot projects at Ghantut. And based on this pilot project, as a result, we float the tender for At-Tawila 2, which is phase number 2, using solar energy. This At-Tawila 2 will produce about 1 million cubic meter a day of desalinated water using solar energy, and it will produce about 45 megawatt hour per day. This is one of the innovative and the most important commercial scale of the desalination globally. Because we don't have enough surface water bodies or freshwater bodies as a strategic reserve, we started to create artificial aquifer recharge project to create a freshwater bubble which could be utilized during emergency. And we have one which have been classified as one of the biggest 5 man-made projects globally in field of artificial recharge. It have been classified in 2019 as one of the biggest 5 artificial recharge projects globally, and they get award from United States. This one exists in Liwa, that we are recharging the excess desalinated water into the groundwater aquifer system. We are monitoring that this is the water injected using 115 groundwater wells, multi-wells, multi-depths, and multilateral wells to create a very clear vision about the 3-dimensional infiltrated aquifer system or infiltrated water into the aquifer, and we can utilize this and recover it during any emergency. We can recover about 40 million imperial gallon a day, which can be enough to utilize or to provide or supply Abu Dhabi and the western region, at Dhafra region, with enough water for 3 months continuously. Meanwhile, we are also exploring with other stakeholders the new innovation technology in treating wastewater and reusing it. And recently, we started now a feasibility study to recharge the aquifer with tertiary treated wastewater. We are injecting the tertiary treated wastewater into the aquifer system that can be utilized for agriculture production or for irrigation. All this in addition to focusing on, this is the supply side. In water, we have 2 sides. We have the supply side, which including the resources. And on the other hand, we have the demand side. On the demand side, we are working with the stakeholder to adopt and to start new innovative technology in irrigation and agriculture production, like the environmentally controlled agriculture system, like the soil-less agriculture system, hydroponic, aeroponic, vertical farming. All this innovation, we are testing it with other stakeholders like ADAFSA, ICBA, and other stakeholders. And even we do have 2 very comprehensive research projects and research plans and the agreement with Korea and Messi University in New Zealand to adopt new innovative technology in agriculture, because agriculture is using about 65% of our total water use. And 20% are coming from desalination, which is very costly. So we are adopting all this, and we are trying to balance between what we have in our resources and what is our demand, and to fill the gaps between this to improve our food self-sufficient ratio from less than 12% to more than 20-25% by 2030. We have a lot of plans. Also, we are focusing on technology, when improving, using innovative technology and monitoring, as have been mentioned by Bayan, for soil, for water. We have also a very comprehensive program for groundwater monitoring, including we have more than 1,000 wells. Out of them, about 80 wells are equipped with loggers, 200 are equipped with data loggers shortly. So we have a very comprehensive monitoring also. So we are collecting a lot of information, analyzing this information, and producing a very comprehensive. Recently, we developed what we call the hydrogeological maps. And through these hydrogeological maps, we developed a very comprehensive geodatabase, including all the information about water resources. And we developed, based on this geodatabase, what we call the supply-demand model. And in this supply-demand model, we are using also artificial intelligence to balance between the supply and to run scenarios for future. If I need to increase the agriculture area in this site, if I need to increase the food production in this area, if I need to have a forested area in this area, what I have, and we can run this scenario using artificial intelligence, and we select the most optimal scenario, economically, technically, and environmentally.
It's amazing to see what the agency is doing. I'm not being biased because I work there, but honestly, it's nice to see that there's a lot of efforts going into making sure our water resources are protected and are conserved, and the same goes for soil. But going back to desalination, we know that we might need desalination more than we think. So do you think desalination in the near future can be sustained?
Desalination is an industry, and it always needs energy, it will always need infrastructure. But what we are doing now, we are working towards minimizing the energy consumption. At present, the lowest tender have been tendered last week in Saudi Arabia for Al Jibal IWB 3, with a consumption of 2.55 kilowatt hour per cubic meter. This is the lowest. This is threshold in the desalination for the energy consumption. Our expectation, it will be lower little bit in the new desalination plant, which is under tendering by Dubai, to reach 2.3 or 2.4. This is very fantastic achievements. It was before 15 to 19 kilowatt hour. Then we reduced it using membrane technology to 5 to 6, and now it becomes 2.5. It's expected to lower a little bit, to hit lower than 2. But if it hit it lower than 2, we will not anymore allow it to minimize the energy because of the principles of thermodynamics. The minimum energy required to separate the sodium chloride from the HO2O, but because the main dominant salts in the sea is the sodium chloride. So to absorb sodium and to separate it from chloride, we need 1.78. This is the minimum by principles. And we are hitting now 2.5. So it's expected that there is room to maintain and to minimize it, lower a little bit up to 2 or below, a little bit below 2. If we achieve this, khalas, we achieve the maximum. The second room for improving the desalination is using renewable energy. At present, we are using either photovoltaic cells or concentrated mirror. The photovoltaic cells, the maximum now efficiency in the photovoltaic is about 22%. It's expected that the maximum that we can achieve to 27%. Beyond 27 is very costly, and we will not hit this target, unfortunately. So we are achieving a lot. There is still room for improvement. However, there is another new technology, which called it ceramic membrane technology or nanotechnology, and also there is what we call it forward osmosis. This is under laboratory scale at present, and it's expected that if we achieve this and we maximize it to commercial or to scale it to commercial scale, we can achieve the energy consumption below 2. And also there is also I saw it in Dubai in WETEX. There was an exhibition, big exhibition about energy. We called it WETEX in Dubai 2 weeks back. And I hear from the Innovation Center in Mujamma Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid that they can achieve up to 38% efficiency of the photovoltaic cells if they add nanomaterial above the cells. And they started to make some experiments on this. This also will improve and make the room and make we can say that makes the desalination industry more sustainable. More sustainable, but not fully sustainable. Shukran, Amir.
Thank you, Doctor. Honestly, I don't want to end this session, but we're very tight on time. However, it was really nice seeing what really happens underground, quite literally. We had soil from Bayan, and we looked into water and groundwater from Dr. Muhammad Dawood. We've seen today how these two are interrelated, and they need more innovation in terms of tackling the challenges. There's always room for great minds. So if you have an idea, anything, you might help even by 1%. Thank you all for coming. It was a pleasure to be here with all of you. Thank you, Bayan. Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. We wish you a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thanks, Mir.